Somewhere tonight, a driver will stare directly at the road. His eyes will be open, his hands will be on the wheel. And for a few seconds, his brain may stop properly processing what is in front of him. He may miss a sign, drift across a lane, and never realize that part of his brain fell asleep before he did. But this is not where sleep deprivation begins. Microsleep is one of the final warnings. Long before it arrives, attention begins to flicker. New memories stop sticking. Emotional alarms become harder to control. And the part of your brain judging its own mistakes becomes less reliable. The disturbing part is that you can still feel awake while all of this is happening. So during one sleepless night, what changes inside your brain first? And how long can you stay awake before the brain stops asking for permission? As daylight disappears, information from your eyes reaches a tiny timekeeping system deep inside the brain. This is your biological clock. It does not switch you off. It begins preparing your body for night. Melatonin rises, alertness moves downward, and the brain begins expecting several hours of sleep. Because sleep is not empty time, it is an active shift that reorganizes information and prepares the brain to function again. But tonight, you ignore the signal. The room stays bright, the screen stays on, and you decide to keep going. For a while, everything seems normal, but beneath the surface, another system has been counting every minute you have remained awake, and it cannot be reset by pretending you are not tired. From the moment you wake up, your brain begins building pressure for sleep. One chemical involved is called adenosine. Think of it as a message that becomes louder the longer you remain awake. At first, it is quiet. Hour after hour, it becomes harder for the brain's wake-promoting systems to ignore. This is why caffeine feels powerful. It can temporarily block some of the receptors adenosine normally uses, but caffeine does not erase the need for sleep. It is closer to covering a warning light than repairing the engine. The pressure continues underneath. Now the brain faces a conflict. You are demanding wakefulness. Your biology is demanding recovery. For several hours, the brain tries to obey both. Then, the first major system begins losing stability. Not memory, not emotion, attention. Attention is not one permanent spotlight. It is a network that must be continuously maintained. When you are rested, it keeps important information in the foreground. After a sleepless night, that spotlight becomes unstable. For several seconds, you may perform normally. Then, activity inside attention and control networks drops. The light flickers. You read the same sentence again. You hear someone say your name but respond too late. You look directly at something without fully registering it. Then the network returns and you feel normal again. This creates a dangerous illusion. The sleep-deprived brain does not always fail continuously. It fails in brief, unpredictable gaps. Between those gaps, you may believe you are functioning perfectly, confident enough to drive, work, or make an important decision. But missing information is only the beginning. Even when information enters your brain, another system must record it. And after a sleepless night, that system begins to fail too. Deep inside the brain is a structure called the hippocampus. It helps turn new experiences into memories. Think of it as the brain's recording desk. Your eyes and ears may capture what is happening, but the hippocampus still has to record it correctly. After a night without sleep, this process becomes less effective. Someone tells you their name. You hear it clearly. Seconds later, it is gone. You finish an entire page, but cannot explain what you read. You put down your keys and have no memory of where you left them. It feels as though the memory disappeared, but sometimes it was never properly recorded in the first place. You may feel as though you experienced the entire night, yet parts of it may never become reliable memories. The information arrived, it simply failed to stick. And while the hippocampus struggles, another system begins reacting more loudly: the emotional alarm. The amygdala helps detect emotionally important events, especially threats. It can react before you examine every detail. Normally, areas in the prefrontal cortex help supervise this alarm. They ask, is this actually dangerous? Was that comment really an attack? Do we need to react right now? After sleep deprivation, communication between these systems can weaken. The alarm is still active, but its supervisor has less control. A small inconvenience may feel personal. A harmless sound may feel threatening. A simple disagreement can trigger outsized anger. You may think the world became more irritating overnight, but the world may not have changed. The system interpreting it has. And the same brain becoming more emotional is also becoming less effective at judging its own condition. You may feel perfectly capable of continuing even as sleep begins intruding into small areas of the brain. We usually imagine sleep as a whole brain event. First, you are awake, then you are asleep. But under heavy sleep pressure, that boundary becomes less clean. Sleep-like slow activity can appear in small patches of the brain while much of it remains awake. This is sometimes described as local sleep. You may still be sitting upright, speaking, holding an object, or looking at the road, but the group of neurons needed for one task may briefly stop responding normally. A mistake appears, then another. Sometimes the failure remains local. At other moments, sleep intrudes more broadly, producing a microsleep, a brief involuntary episode in which responsiveness disappears. It may last only a few seconds. That sounds small, but at highway speed, those seconds can move a vehicle a dangerous distance before the driver reacts. And because awareness was interrupted, the brain may not create a clear memory of what happened. You do not decide to begin a microsleep. You do not receive a countdown. The brain simply takes a fragment of the sleep it has been denied. This is when the balance of power becomes clear. You can choose to delay sleep, but you cannot guarantee that every part of your brain will continue obeying that choice. Then the sun rises. The clock says the night is over, and you may believe the experiment is finished, but the sun has risen before your brain has reset. Sleep pressure remains. Attention is unstable. New memories are harder to form, and involuntary lapses can still appear. You stayed awake all night. But not every part of your brain stayed fully awake with you. That is the real danger of sleep deprivation. It does not always announce itself with a dramatic collapse. Sometimes it removes your abilities one by one, while leaving you confident enough to believe they are still there. One sleepless night can disturb attention, memory, emotional control, judgment, and awareness. But sleep does far more than prevent these systems from failing. Every night, while you are disconnected from the outside world, the brain begins an organized internal process. Information is sorted, important connections are strengthened, the brain prepares for another day. But why does it need you unconscious to complete this hidden night shift? In the next episode, we enter the sleeping brain and follow what begins the moment you close your eyes.